From the moment that I said that yes and stepped into this, I created $200,000 in 8 months, and then the next year in business, I was already that year in 12 months, I had $1 million.
Welcome to the Energy Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Grutman. And if you are a high-achieving woman, a successful entrepreneur, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just a woman with kick-ass big dreams, you're in the right place. If you value your energy, your health, if you want to be a biohacker, tap into longevity, if you want to raise the impact you have in this lifetime, you're going to have a lot of fun around here. As a second-time seven-figure business creator, certified health practitioner, and soul biohacker, I'm here to reconnect you to your energy, to the soul of your business, and to your superpowers. Let's go. Welcome home. Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Upgrade Podcast. This is your host, Vanessa, and I'm so thrilled today to be welcoming Corrina Steward to the show. Oh my God, ladies, you are in for quite the treat. Corrina is a global leader, a light awakener, a transformational queen for the planetary shift emerging in these times. And I've had the pleasure of being touched by your frequency, by your power, and I know it's only the beginning. Corrina, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Vanessa. I am so thrilled. I'm so thrilled.
So we've had the pleasure of kind of being in like co-creating in similar spaces with, molecular hydrogen is what brought us together. And we got to actually spend some time together in person when we were in Las Vegas for the premiere of the Biohack Yourself documentary. And it was just this like magnetic pull that we had. It was just like, I want more of you. I want more of you. Give me more. And it's hard to describe, even just put a label on what you do, but you are sort of this frequency reader. You are able to tap into fields. You're able to see things that are beyond what we can see with the naked eye. And I want to know, first of all, what's your story? How did you get into this so that people can understand? And again, like I often say, please listen to this episode with your body, with your heart, more than with your mind, because there's a lot that we're going to be bringing in. We'll talk about feminine wealth. We'll talk about timelines and wealth activation. Listen with your body, because there's going to be a lot of downloads. I can tell already. But Corrina, how did you get into this?
Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate that too. To feel it's definitely a transmission. Well, I would actually start there. They began as transmissions. I didn't even know what that was at the time. This is going back to like 2007 is when I first began to awaken into my gifts and become aware that my life was not what I thought it was, and that I was here for something very different than I could even imagine at the time. In 2007, I was working at an international development organization. I was a contractor for the United Nations, and I was doing this great humanitarian work in the world. I always had this heart of service and to make a difference. That was always a part of me. But it was very, I guess you could say, it was a career that I followed that traditional path of schooling and did all the things. And then all of a sudden, I lost that job. I was laid off. And I've been doing yoga. So we'll put it that way. Like I've been doing yoga. I was getting interested in meditation. And this is 2007. And, try to imagine, I was going to a Gold's Gym, your very mainstream Gold's Gym. And I was doing their yoga classes. And I started to have these wild experiences laying in Shavasana, like colors and seeing different things happening and hearing messages. And I would feel these big heart openings. And I remember talking to one of the instructors at the end of one of those classes and like, has this ever happened to you in Shavasana? And she was nice enough, but she really didn't relate. And then of course that led me to like do my own research. And, the internet did exist then in 2007.
It was in the early stages.
It was in the early stages, but I remember just looking up things like, visions and intuition and purpose. And, I was turned on to people like Eckhart Tolle very early then, and Wayne Dyer and the Power of Intention. And so I was reading those books and I started to get really like okay, interesting. Like I create my own reality. And so that's how it began, right? Which is really common. But the thing I would say is not so common is the experience I had, because really in 2007, when I got laid off, I just went really deep into that because I was trying to figure out what to do. Should I go get another job? Like, what's my next step? I had urgency because here I was without a paycheck, and I was in my mid 20s at that point, and I had an apartment, I had a cell phone bill, I had bills. I didn't know how I was going to pay for the bills. So I would bring it to my yoga mat. I would meditate, have my journal out, and ask, like in meditations at the end of my yoga, what's my purpose? And
Mm.
there was this one time that became essentially the like most activating, probably yoga moment I've ever had. But I didn't realize it then. And it was this experience where after meditating, doing some yoga, I asked to feel unconditional love. I had been doing reading on Zen Buddhism and basically the compassionate heart, and I wanted to feel that. And I instantly had a vision, and it was Jesus, it was Martin Luther King, and the Buddha. They all appeared in front of me. Now, this alone is quite strange, but there was this pulsating love. I just felt this warmth in my heart, and it had already opened my heart. Then I was receiving a transmission. I don't know that I could have explained it that way then. I didn't understand what was happening. But I did get into this communication with these beings. And I said, how can I feel like you? Because I assumed in my mind at the time that what I was feeling was their heart, not my heart. That they, who I, would look up to all three of them as these avatars, that they knew unconditional love. They knew how to serve from their heart in this big, big way and to be fully of service to, humanity that, transformed everything. And the message I got back, it was like, when I say this, it was like this telepathic communication was, you already know how to do this. You're feeling it right now. This is your heart. I said, oh, interesting. And then it got into some really interesting places. Now realize this is 2007. There is nothing written about anything I'm about to tell you. Not that I'm aware of. They started showing me a vision of the planet. And I was floating out in space, and I was looking at our beautiful blue earth. And again, in this telepathic communication, was telling me that at some point the earth would all feel this. So humanity would feel this love that I was feeling in my heart. And then it got even more interesting, which was, they said, and money is going to transform into love. And money will become a currency of the heart. And I was shown the number 8, and then the number 8 flipped on its side, and it was infinity. And I went, oh. And in that moment, again, it was a transmission. It was code being dropped into my heart. It was the infinity symbol placed into my heart. And then I fully read the entire information. Today, I would explain it as it was a light code placed into my heart, and it had with it the entire, basically decades worth of work that I was about to enter into, teaching new wealth codes.
Oh my gosh. So what did you do?
At the time I thought, well, that was really interesting. Like, I truly thought it had nothing to do with me, Vanessa. I thought, I know nothing about money. Here I was laid off from my, average salary job. I made $45,000, which seemed good at the time for my nonprofit job. And I had this additional income from a UN contract, which had been my dream to work for the UN. So I thought, wow, I made it, right? And then I was laid off, still had the contract, but I'm thinking, like, I'm broke. Like, how do I have anything to do with some kind of financial shift? And in fact, they had even said to me in this communication that it would be a financial soul reset. Listen, it all made sense. But again, I put myself outside of that. I just thought it was interesting information that I was being given. I didn't think it had anything to do with my path until I would say many years later, it was like, oh, wait.
Oh, that was it.
Me. There's a reason it was given to me.
Yes, because since you are this like, seven-figure coach, you've cracked the million codes over and over and over again, and you're teaching women how to do this. But like,
Yeah.
so, and then you had two kids, then you took your whole family, moved to Puerto Rico, where you are right now. So like, how and when did you start getting this wealth activation? Like, how did it come?
Yeah. So it took many years. So between 2000 and when I was pregnant with my daughter and had my daughter in 2014, um, that whole period was a very challenging period. That was me continuing to be basically educated by my future self,
Hmm.
that I consider to be this, light avatar galactic queen of the universe, But I didn't understand all that. She just kept coming to me and teaching me these things, just like that first lesson. Like, here is where the planet is going. Here's where the frequency of money is going. And so for that whole time, it was very much just this inner schooling. And I had wild things happen to me. And this is also how I learned to do timeline shifting. And I learned about quantum leaping. And that's probably, I'll drop it in here. I don't know if we can get fully into that, but I was taught that through the honeybees. So they taught me the queen bee that also has galactic codes. Like, she came to me around the time that my daughter was born, which makes sense because it's a very feminine energy wealth signature, and taught me about the bees and the hive and how they're the keepers of infinity codes. And that actually our money system would be based on their codes, the honeybees. So that's a very cool thing to dive into in terms of a divine design. But in terms of the trajectory, it was like I was just gaining the wisdom and remembering. I was remembering parts of myself. Part of it was that sort of light worker, light being side. Another part was shamanistic, like a lot of shaman pieces. That's when my healing gifts came online. And then I started to realize I could heal people. I, at one point, was having people just come to my house and lay on a massage table. And that's how I learned, really. I mean, again, I had no teachers. It was all just taught through me. And then I could see, I was like, oh, I can see where that ailment is. I can see from Lyme disease to ADD to, depression, anxiety, like all these things. I was just quickly accelerated to understanding that it was all about layers of light body and soul and different fragments of soul. And somehow doing these sessions, I could do things that I didn't realize I could do,
Hmm.
but I did, and I healed people. And then, yeah, when my daughter was born, that was the beginning. It was the beginning of me realizing that there was something new. But then it was when my son was born, which I don't know if we talked lightly about this in Vegas, but I had a near death experience with him.
Hmm.
And that basically became the final chapter of, I guess, keeping me invisible, I would say, like whether that was me doing it or it just wasn't time. I mean, I think it was a combination of both. But after that near death experience, where I almost died and I saw a parallel life. I was hovering over my body and I saw a parallel life where my husband was raising our two kids. And then I reclaimed my life. An angel had come who I knew from high school. She had died in childbirth, actually. And she said, well, she said nothing, actually. I just knew. I said to her, I am sovereign. If I am going to die, I know how to die. And like, she just vanished. And I woke up from this surgery. I'd been rushed into surgery because I had internal bleeding. And I had nearly gone unconscious. I ended up with a blood transfusion. I ended up with a surgery, all these things. And, of course, it's really dramatic after having a baby. And I lived. And on the other side of that, I was in complete grace. Like 3 months after, it was just this light was with me, this incredible healing light. And things happened in miraculous ways in that window. It was like my son was that final piece. And I know, as moms, we can say like our children are part of the plan. And I needed to have both these kids. And it's like they completed the divine design of the family and my divine design. And it was then that I made this decision and I had a conversation with God, quiet in my living room with just the two kiddos. My husband was back to his contracting job working. And And I just said, okay, God, like I've been through a lot in this last decade between this opening, all this inner alchemy and inner education and all these gifts and all these things that have come online for me. And now I nearly died and I've survived. And I just said, whatever it is that you need from me, I will be a yes.
Mm.
And it was my year of yes. I made this commitment to be a year of yes, that I would say yes to any door that opened. And within 2 weeks, I was on a phone call with a coach who was a coach who became my business coach for 5 years. And I, signed up for some business mentoring program that I had no money for. And, so many of these stories start this way, but I really didn't. I had no credit cards and very little income. I had like 2 clients that were paying me $250 a month. And, that barely was going to cover any childcare for me. So, but I said yes, and I trusted. And from the moment that I said that yes and stepped into this, I created $200,000 in 8 months. And then the next year in business, I was already, that year in 12 months, I had $1 million in my business. So it happened very fast.
Yeah.
Once I went through all of those initiations, I would call them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's well, first of all, we share a lot of similar timelines. I didn't realize this, but our kids are almost the same age. What's the year that your son was born?
He was born in 2016.
Okay. So my daughter was 2013 and my son 2017. So it's like a similar story.
Yeah,
and then
same generation.
Same thing for me in my business. The second year was the year I cracked the million. You've mastered strategy. You've done the mindset work. So why does scaling your business still feel so heavy? Your energy is your business. If your body, nervous system, and wealth frequency aren't calibrated for the level you're trying to step into, then success will always feel like this uphill battle. This is why I created Fam Biohacker, a 12-month coaching experience where we merge energy, business, and biohacking so you can scale without burning out, without forcing or hustling. Inside, you'll learn to optimize your body, expand your wealth capacity, upgrade your identity, and follow energy alignment so that success can flow as you know it should. If you're ready to build a business that matches your energy and unlocks your feminine energy, then it's time to step into Fam Biohacker. You can learn more in the link in bio or DM me on Instagram the word FAM, and I will send you all the details to get you started. Together, let's make feminine success feel supernatural like it should be. I find your story very important because there's so many women listening right now that are probably struggling with finding their purpose or wondering, is this it? Wondering, is there something next? And there's something really important in what you said. Well, many things, but first of all, you trusted and you decided to say yes, because the frequency of yes, when we trust, okay, not the frequency of saying yes to everything and not honoring ourselves, but when we trust that we are enough and that we are here for our purpose and we decide to say yes to that, then that changes everything. And so for you, it changed your wealth. It changed your relationship with money, which in turn changed everything in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it did. And, to come back to those wealth codes. So right before I said that, yes, it all clicked, and something I didn't bring in, which, I'd been given that earlier vision in 2007. So when my son was born in 2016, and I think it was just it was a few days or something, and I was home. And then all of a sudden it was another download that said, oh, because I had also received heart codes, and I'd written a book about it called Our New Humanity. And I think that was in 2009. So I was receiving a lot of information. I just didn't have the business tools. And so I wrote that in a book, and it wasn't about money then, it was about the heart codes. And I was given these 4 heart seeds that are crystalline seeds that, again, I was told this is the new human heart, and this will be how the future human will operate, is from this anatomy. And it was then after my son was born that these money codes and the heart codes merged.
Mm.
And it was this light bulb moment when I said, oh my goodness, the heart codes are the money codes.
Okay, let's dive into that. You can't just say that and stop. What? Yeah, well, I mean, of course, because money is energy. Money is like it responds to our vibration. And so, yeah, okay, so tell me
Yeah.
more about how you actually, because it's one thing to have these downloads. And I
Right.
know that some people get frustrated with this, and myself included, that we get these visions, these downloads, and it's like, how do we make it happen in a 3D? But also, everything takes so much more time to take form, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you
Yeah.
see it, but then it might take, for you, it almost took a decade before you had between your vision and the actualization of it.
Yeah.
So how did
How does
you
that
link
operate?
those and make it happen in the 3D?
Yeah. I mean, I learned early on that I was a prototype. And that might sound a little strange, but like that's what I am. I was told that you are a prototype to the new wealth consciousness. And so I will be a student of it first and get to live it and embody it. And then when I've had the breakthrough, it's like I'll turn around and teach it.
Mm,
So in that very stage where, okay, I received this download and I understand that the two are together, for me, it started as money is love. That's one of the codes. And in that, I began to, this is really a simple step to take, right? Which was, okay, if money is love, every time I think about money, I need to tap into my heart and I need to tap into how does that feel in my heart? And is there any wounding there around, maybe it's just, paying the bills or, I used to bounce checks all the time, like paying for the childcare so I could start my business. And I would feel guilty about that, and it was like, okay, I mean, eventually all the sitters got paid, but I have to juggle a lot to make it happen. And these are some of the things you do when you're
no sitters
making
were
it
hurt
work.
in the process.
No, yeah, no babysitters were hurt in the process. They were all paid. But it would cause conflict, not only within me, but with my husband as well. And, it was kind of like this, like, what are you doing? And like, my faith and belief was like way out here, but the physical reality wasn't matching it yet. And that's where so many struggle. And I understand that. And the thing I would say is, first of all, I took the download as literal. I said, okay, well, if money is love, that means I need to continue to transform my heart to be a match to the frequency of money I'm desiring. And in the beginning, that was, look, I want to see a consistent, it was like literally just like $1,000 to $3,000 a month. That's all that's the level of vision I had. And I said, okay, if I'm the experiment, which is what I understand I am, then I am going to work that. So every time I'd log into my bank account, it wasn't like this thing outside of me. I said, no, I'm literally logging into my heart.
Mm.
And so when I look at the numbers and if I see a bounce check, then okay, then what is that? And if that feels anything inside of me, then I need to embody and express that emotion. I need to move that through me because I'm looking at the anatomy of my heart. This isn't just something outside of me. And that's what most people do is they make money this externalized object, and it is not. It is actually a part of you. And when you begin to realize that it is a part of you and it's a currency of you and it's a currency of your heart, starting from that place, and then we can go really much, much further than that. But then you start to have a more intimate relationship with money, right? And then you don't bypass things. Then you don't just go, oh God, well, that sucks. Like, oh, I don't have the money. No, it's like, well, where is that inside me? And you're going to find deep stuff there. Like some of it's yours, some of it's mom, some of it's dad, some of it's great, great, great grandmother. It's like, never got to like voice and express her being. And you're carrying that in the tissues of your heart. That's that miasma, right? That we carry. And women like you and I, we're here to path pave. We're here to change not only the paradigm, but like we have to do it from within. We literally need to change those tissues. We need to change what the biology is saying. And that's where I started. And so I would just spend all this time on the money is love. And even, we didn't have any sophisticated ways of tracking our money then like we do now. Then it was like a sheet of paper on the refrigerator. Like these are the monthly bills. These are the amounts. These are the due dates. And I just started writing money is love on that piece of paper up in the kitchen, just as this like reminder to like take that in, like, okay, if you get triggered, right, or get into anxiousness and energy, right, around like, oh, the upcoming, like, then we didn't own, it was like the rent, we got to pay the rent, we didn't have enough, right, like, oh my gosh, like you contract there. So many people contract when they think about money and their obligations versus going, okay, what do I get to be? Who do I get to be? What gets to happen? What miracle gets to live in this space that I get to create through my heart? Just starting with that, take a breath and expand rather than contract. That's how I started. And over time, that led to that trust you're talking about. It's like, then I could say yes to things, and I could make bigger leaps. And that's how you start leaping, right? That's how timeline collapsing happens. And again, that might just first be in the belief that, you know what, all of my bills are paid right now. My investments are paid. My investment in that coach, my investment in that program, it's paid. And I'm going to keep, every time I feel like a fear about that, I'm going to tap back in and I'm going to expand. And then from there, because people will say, well, okay, that's great. And then what? Like, likely if you expand, you're going to get ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Things drop in. I mean, the things I did in that first year to pay for that program, it was like, I started my first group program. I was like, oh, okay. You know what? I've never done this before. I'm just going to create a 6-week group program. And I got a name and I said, this is the price. And then I told people who were already connected to me and they signed up. I was like, great, that month is paid, right? Then I got to figure it out the next month. And so that's what happens if you don't contract and you stay open. Then you become available to what's already actually there, which is infinite ideas, infinite money, infinite flow. And when you start making a lot of great money and you go, wow, and then the vision can get bigger. And then, of course, the trust and the faith and the surrendering gets bigger as well, because it never stops. It's this spiral that we move through.
It's so beautiful to hear this. And I know that women listening are probably super activated, maybe even teary right now, because this is what we need. This is what we need to hear. And it's everything but what we've been shown. It's everything but what we've been told. We have so many thick layers of conditioning that we have to peel back to even just find our heart and to even just feel safe to feel our heart as women. But I love what you're saying, that money is literally an extension of us. And it's always a mirror, because it's a reflection of what's happening on the inside and what's happening, physically, emotionally, energetically. It's all those layers wrapped up into one. And it's like, and I love that you had the vision that money is going to become the love currency, because it really is that. Because when you love yourself, and when you love your purpose, and when you love what you are creating and how you are co-creating, and you bring love into the services that you offer and everything you do, then it's the extension. What people are receiving on the other hand is that, love. So it's so beautiful.
It is. This is when you'll raise your standards for yourself. My standards at the beginning were a reflection of, my price, right? So, when I didn't, I always kind of stretched myself, but it's still, my stretch in the beginning was $250 a month for private coaching. That's what I charged my clients, right? And that was in 2007, 2008, when I officially became a coach and did training in a year-long program for that. I took my retirement money. It was like $2,000, something I had from the job I was laid off. I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm keeping that till I'm 65. So I took that and invested in a year-long coach training. And, but coming out of that, I felt, oh, I don't have an experience. I am not really, I can't charge anymore. Plus the coaching industry at that time was not very well known. And so I thought I needed more validation. So I charged $250 a month, right? And then when I hit that 7 figures, by then it was like, I don't know, probably like 3,000 or something at that point to work with me per month. And I could stand on that ground because I knew my value. I could turn around and go, well, not just because of the things I had created and manifested. That's the byproduct, right? The money is the byproduct. The move to Puerto Rico is the byproduct. It was the inner growth and the inner alchemy that was the work. And as a result of that, I knew I could help women who were in that place that I had been, a decade ago, and help them to raise their standard and then see their worth and transform money into love. And that's a trajectory, because if we keep doing that, right? If women just keep honing into that, and there's something more I want to say about this around, it's women's time, but just put that on the side for a moment.
We're going to come back for sure.
We're going to come back to that.
If money feels inconsistent, stressful, or just harder than it should be, then your energy is what's out of alignment. You don't make money anymore. We know that this is an endless loop leading to burnout. You attract money. And if your energetic field isn't calibrated for this type of wealth, then no strategy will work the way it should. That's why I created the Money Energy Bundle, the key to unlocking this more feminine way of connecting and being a match for abundance. This is how I've been able to build my business from 0 to 1 million in cash in less than 17 months. Inside this bundle, you'll get 3 exclusive powerful masterclasses on wealth energetics, all the things you need to know and be aware of. But in order for you to also integrate this learning, I'm also including an energy clearing activation to clear any old blocks around money, as well as a wealth meditation to help you rewire your frequency and your money story. But also, all of this bundle is going to be there to help you expand your capacity to not only receive, but hold money. Because believe it or not, money wants to come into your life right now. But are you in a contracted state? Are you allowing it to come in? What I know now is that money flows to women who know how to hold it. You can grab instant access to the Money Energy Bundle for just $111 for a limited time only. You can grab the link in the show notes or DM me on Instagram the word money, and I will send you all the information to get started. I hope to see you in there.
But just this process, like at first it might seem slow. And that's just what I want to say to people listening, to the women listening. At first you might go, oh, I don't see any progress. But the thing is you're working in the quantum field when you're working in the inner alchemy of the heart. And it may at first be like, oh, it's just like that 1 by 1 by 1. But see, then it becomes 3 by 3 by 3. And then it spirals, right? Because this is a quantum field. And then you hit these tipping points. And that's why, like we both had this experience, like that I could go from 0 to 200,000 in 1 year, and then the next year from that and hit 7 figures. That's not a linear process. That's an exponential process. That's a quantum process, because you're connecting in to the potential of the quantum field, which is what our heart can do. And this is that shift from the mind to the heart. The heart is the quantum field. It is the infinite field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's never going to come from the mind.
Just checking if I still have you. And pause.
Yeah. I see you. I hear you.
Oh, there we go. We're back.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting? We just had a quantum spin, and then
this, and listeners are kind of used to this now. This happens all the time. Like we're breaking the internet always.
always.
But it's always the moment at which it happens. It's like, and we were just saying, nothing is going to come from the mind. The quantum, the acceleration, the knowing, the intuition, the next step, the hell yes, the following the energy is always going to come from the heart and checking in with yourself. But what I found for myself that was so hard was to actually even just remember where my heart was, what my heart wanted. Like it felt like it was in cement. And literally I had a reading that was, I think, in 2019, and just before I sold my first company. And the psychic had told me, I see you're in cement up to your neck. Like you are just so rigid, and you only know how to operate from the head up. That's all you know.
Yeah.
And yet I had created that success from that place. And she was just like, the minute you're going to allow the bottom piece to melt, to soften, the minute you're going to find your heart again, then the true magic is going to come online. And I remember that always stayed with me, that vision, because I could feel that. I could feel that. I knew it, but I didn't really know how to get out of it. And what, similar to you, what was really helpful for me was just saying, micro yeses that felt like a safe stretching out of my comfort zone, where I wasn't like giant leaping like I would do now, but I was doing it in micro steps that felt comfortable yet expensive. And it was just like, okay, let's start taking these steps. And I also had invested in a coaching just to figure this out and figure myself out. And also through community, we're like seeing other women doing it. Then you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Like if she's doing it, like I can too. Like the reflection was powerful. And I know you wanted to touch on this time for women, because it is now. Yeah. It is now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because it starts with the heart. And while women, we've had our experiences of whether that's being told to close down the heart or not valuing ourselves, we do have this embedded blueprint, let's call it, coming in as women, choosing that as our incarnation, that basically has this multidimensional heart a little bit more intact, let's just say, than most men. Okay. And this isn't necessarily to compare in that sense, like both have their value, but it is a time of rebalancing the energy on the planet. So we can begin there. And women's gifts and what we could consider to be emotional intelligence, these sort of softer skills that, certainly haven't been valued in corporate, and they haven't been valued in the economy. When we think about traditional female jobs, being a teacher or,
nurse.
Yeah, right. It's sort of this, nurturing and compassionate and kindness. These are all heart qualities. These are all the compassionate heart. And they're also typically the lower paying jobs. They're not that high flying executive in corporate, and the women that have taken on those roles have felt they've needed to close down that part of themselves, maybe use it to a certain extent, but make sure not to show it, because that won't get you in the room. And that's why there's been such a movement of women creating their own businesses who are leaving corporate and leaving those jobs and saying, you know what, like I get to value myself, I get to earn, and they're having awakenings, right? So it's a time where more and more women are awakening, and they're saying no to a lower standard that doesn't fit their worth, their leadership, their gifts, and then gives the possibility for all of this female multidimensional expression to come forward, where intuition is valued, where someone like myself, who I consider myself to be this embodied multidimensional galactic being, right, can make $1 million, right? Like that's not happening in corporate. That's not a job you can apply for. That's one I get to create, right? And so we are the leading light, we could say, of this movement of shifting money into love and our light into wealth, right? The light that we are is becoming a tangible, materialized income. And we're doing it from this space of following the downloads, following things that, before didn't fit any box, and we're creating a new framework for it. And so that's exciting news for us, right, as women. And then we have the men that are supporting and also, rising and leading in the ways that they do. But it really is, and I say this to so many women that come to me that, are afraid in a way to kind of break out of an old kind of paradigm of relationship, or, I'm not sure what the response is going to be in my family. And I'll say, look, I understand, because I did it. I stepped out of the old relationship, out of the old paradigm. And I just say, the thing is it actually is your time. Like you are to lead. And I think so many women just don't know that. They don't realize the reason you're being tapped before, say, your spouse or, others around you is like, well, no, because you need to go first. And when you go first, you show by example, and you show that it's safe, and you show that it's possible to materialize, to manifest abundance from these feminine, incredible, like, gifts that we have. Today I can say to my husband, like, I can say, hey, I'm going in the bedroom and I'm going to go like download my next program. And he's like, okay, cool. Right. Because he knows I'm going to come out with my notebook full. I'm going to have the idea and it's going to be a next, like, money in our bank account. Like, great, you go do that. Right.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. My husband is the same. It's like, okay, you go and have a bath for 2 hours and then come back. I love it.
It was like, you're coming to Egypt with me. And like, I haven't told you this, that was born. I had this inkling I was going to go back to Egypt, but that was born because I did a microdose. And I was like, I told my husband, I said, I got to go figure out 2025. Like 2024 has been an interesting year. That's a whole other story. It was more of an internal growth year for me more than external. And I said, but I can feel 2025. And I said, I'm going to go microdose and I'm going to call it in. I said, it's there. And then it was like, everything was Egypt. It was just like Egypt.
Well, clearly I was writing that frequency because I was waiting for you to bring it out because it's been calling me. And when somehow it's so interesting how things happen. But I caught your wave exactly at the peak moment that I was able to receive it. Let's just call it this way. Like I knew the seed was there, but I saw your story at the perfect moment when I was in Hawaii, activated by older codes. And I was just like, I have to say yes. Like, this is what I've been calling in. This is what I've been asking for like a rapid acceleration. So this is just part of the journey. So
yeah. And that's how it works. So it's so cool for you to share your side of it because that's how it started, right? Which it was like this massive clear expansion. And then I was getting names and then everything was just like, focus on Egypt, focus on Egypt. That is going to blast open everything else. And I knew I didn't even need to know the rest. And I share that because that's part of that blind faith in some ways to follow the intuition that's in front of you. And listen, Egypt is not an easy project to pull off. It's a bit of a beast, it's another country far away. I don't speak Arabic. It's a lot to put together and that could be quite overwhelming. But I said, this is the guidance. And so, over the holidays, I was like getting it done, like, okay, let's get it all figured out. Let's get all the pieces. And you were on the wavelength and others felt it. And this is how we're operating almost in this sort of like telepathic new way of doing business. And that creates the speed that I was referring to before, where we don't need to do things linear in the head and we don't need to hustle and we don't need to try and force and all that. It's like, no, it actually is already done.
Yeah.
If you follow that energy current, it is already done.
Wow. And I know it can be super triggering because I have clients that get triggered when I say that to them. I'm like, stop forcing more doing, just get back to you. What are you feeling called? Like, where is the energy leading you? And they get mad because they're like, but chop, I need to get money in. And I'm like, well, that's not going to come from forcing. It's such a beast to unravel because the programming runs deep and it's in our DNA. It's like lineage and lineage generations deep. But, you said something, turning money into love, turning light into wealth. I love this because that's the vision. And that's the vision. If you're listening to this podcast right now, this minute, that's your sign. That's the confirmation you needed to have that you're at the right place at the right time, hearing the right conversations that will bring you back online, that will help you remember. And I always say this, you're a disruptor. If you're listening to this, you're not, somehow there's a piece of you that knows you're here to be a change maker, to create, to hold the light, to be this pillar of light and show a new way. And Corrina, it's just such an honor to have you doing that too, and to be able to kind of just walk in your path. And oh my gosh, Egypt, I I have no clue what the heck is going to happen there, but we'll need to do another
I was going to say, we might have to do a podcast post. That would be a good one.
I already know, like the minute I said yes, I could already feel things shifting, and I could even, like, I could hear, wait to launch this, because there's going to be some depth that you'll be able to add. Wait for this project, just like, hold on, there's more that wants to come through, create space instead. And so I cleared my entire month of February. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just creating space, because I know that there's so much that wants to come in. So I'm ready, buckled up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Corrina. I mean, we could go on and on forever, but I know for sure the audience has benefited from this transmission, and I'm sure they're going to be curious to have more. So where can people find you and your amazing work online?
Thank you. Okay, well, I would recommend two places. First, I have a website, and it's my name, Corrina Dawn, D-A-W-N, Steward, STEWARD.com. So CorrinaDawnSteward.com. So you can check that out. And then I love to meet people on Instagram, which is the same, at Corrina Dawn Steward. So just find me there, say hello, drop me a message, and give me a follow.
Yes. And I'll put all those links in the show notes. Was there also like a download you wanted to offer?
Yes. So I have a free activation, and it's called Activate Your Universal Light. And this is the future human light body. This is the future human embodiment. So that's for your audience. You guys can sign up for that and, receive that. It's a really potent light body activation that is going to expand you, which once you're expanded, you can receive more wealth.
Yes. And Corrina's transmissions and activations are always so powerful. So thank you so much for that gift. I know that everybody will greatly benefit from it. Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for activating those, wealth, money, heart codes, and helping this vibration, this frequency, reach more people, because that's what we're both wanting, is to impact more people, help more women remember why they're here, why they decided to come here in this lifetime, and their mission, really the soul mission. So thank you for your time, and I can't wait to continue this work with you in Egypt.
Thank you, Vanessa. It's just the beginning. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. Thank you so much for everybody who listened, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.